Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel. My name is Morgan, and today I'm going to tell you a story about how a few weeks ago we walked out of our home, not sure if we would ever be able to walk back into it. We were sick. We were all really sick, and we found out that we have mold in our beautiful 5-year-old home, brand new, and it's toxic mold. And it's been slowly making us super sick over the last 5 years. Right now, we are living in an Airbnb with all of our kids while we try to fix our home, restore it back to what it was supposed to be to start with, and all because we had a humidity problem in our attic that ended up causing mold to grow in our HVAC system. And it was like silent in there. We didn't smell it, we didn't see it, we had no clue it was there. Even the mediation company that came in to our home, he said, I would never guess that this amount of mold and these test results would come from this house, because you couldn't see it, you couldn't smell it, you didn't know it was there, but it was there. It was making us sick. So that is the story I'm going to tell you guys today. I've been hesitant to make this video. I haven't really known what to say, what to do, how to handle this, how to process everything, how to share, because it's just so much. There's so many things that I don't know. So I'm going to share with you what I do know, and feel free to ask me all the questions and give me all the information you have in the comment section below, because I am on a fast track to learning so much about mold. We've already made so many mistakes going through this, but we are learning as we go, and hopefully our home will be safe to live in the next few weeks or months. And the Lord has been so evident and so amazing through this. I've literally seen prayers answered right in front of my children and me. We've prayed prayers and God has answered them miraculously several times through this. It's been amazing. It's been amazing for my kids. It's been amazing for me. And I'll tell you all about that. And let me just get started. Okay, so we had a home built in 2020. It was in the process of being built when we found it, so we didn't get to completely build it ourselves or have control over it, everything, but we ended up finding it just in enough time so that we could kind of alter a little bit of the floor plan upstairs and pick everything out. And it was just such a fun process to do with the kids. I hoped it would be our forever home. I hoped that we would be able to stay there forever and try to find contentment in this place. We've lived in Middle Georgia since 2008, and we've moved about 16 times since we got married. We have 9 children. It has been a wild ride from start to finish. This year, we have lived in this home for 5 years, and if we would have stayed here a few more months, it would have been the longest home we've ever lived in one place together since we were married, or me, my whole life. I moved so much growing up. 5 years was the longest that I had, almost the longest I'd lived anywhere growing up. But anyway, that's another story for another day. We started getting sick 10 months after we moved into this house. Had no idea that it was this house or anything like that. One of my daughters played volleyball, and she was just running her drills one night, and she just kind of came to me and she was like, Mom, I can't breathe. Like, I can't catch my breath. And that started it. I remember very clearly because I was watching her, and it was so out of character for her. I was like, that is so weird. Like, is she just not wanting to run? Like, what's going on? And I took her to the doctor. They immediately said, oh, she has asthma, so we're going to give her an emergency inhaler. We finished out that volleyball season and nothing got better. She couldn't do drills anymore. She would walk or sit during the running. She could play the games, but it was like a pretty low intensity volleyball. I mean, it was upward, like a church league, so it was pretty low intensity. I mean, the highest intensity part of that season was the drills, like at the practices. But anyway, she got diagnosed with asthma. The emergency inhaler didn't work. The doctor ended up saying, no, well, it must be exercise-induced asthma, because, you know, it was happening so often if she did anything to exert herself. I mean, even like ride her bike. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. Exercise-induced asthma. Got it. So then she was doing a daily inhaler, a nightly inhaler, and then an emergency inhaler. Then she kept having these sort of like asthma attacks. I know now they weren't asthma attacks, but I thought they were. We went to urgent care countless times. We learned how to do nebulizer emergency treatments. We learned how to do all kinds of treatments. Then she, for a short time, was on allergy medication. It was at that time that we went to an asthma allergist because during this time we found out she had all these food sensitivities. She could eat very few foods during this time. I think she was like wheat, dairy, oat, egg free. So you try to figure out how to make a muffin with that. Anyway, the asthma allergist said she doesn't have asthma. Oh yeah, and she kept getting pneumonia. So she had pneumonia. We took her to the asthma allergist with pneumonia. I called that day. I'm like, my daughter actually has pneumonia. Should I still come to this appointment? They were like, oh yeah, it'll be fine. Come on. So she passed all the tests and the doctor said, well, something's wrong with her, but it's not asthma. And I was like, huh, okay. I left that office crying because this had been actually years. Like this was a couple years. And then my other children, meanwhile, were sick with everything. And we have 9 kids. I think you tend to like pass stuff back and forth all the time. And so like you can like reason a lot of stuff in your head like, oh, well, we're sick all the time, but it's just because we're such a big family and we're everywhere and we're catching everything. And so definitely some immune issues were going on. So my one daughter that was sick 2 years ago, right at Christmas, we were in Georgia, it snowed, and we were sick. We had the flu and we were super sick, and she was kind of laying on the couch. All of her kids were so sick, and she ended up like getting up, having some form of like a seizure, passing out. We had to call an ambulance. We ended up taking her to the hospital ourselves only because, like, you know, an emergency happens, you call an ambulance, and then you're like, wait, I live 1 mile from the hospital, literally. So I was like, I'm going to take her myself. Like, I can get there faster. So we just jumped in the car and rushed her there ourselves. So she had that. We got to the hospital. She was tachycardic. Her heart rate was like in the 160s. And at that point, I learned about her heart rate. I learned about what tachycardic is. I learned your heart rate shouldn't be that high. I learned how, before that, I knew all about her oxygen numbers because we struggled so hard to keep her oxygen up because her body never really responded to any of the albuterols or the Pulmicort or the Flovent or any of that stuff. Her body never really responded. She would respond for like 30 minutes or so, and then it would just go right back. I know that I'm kind of scattered, and I'm sorry. I'm doing the best I can to get this story out. So now her heart rate is out of control. I think it was probably out of control before that. I just didn't even know to look for it. And the reason I say that is because she was always like so exhausted. I feel so bad now because I was like, push yourself, come on, come on, come on. And she literally was so exhausted because her heart was beating so fast all the time. It was just wearing her out. So let's see, at some point we went to a cardiologist. They told us there she probably had POTS, maybe long COVID, could have been Epstein-Barr. Let's see, he puts her on a high salt diet, 2 teaspoons of salt a day, which that sounds great, but that is a lot of salt. So we ended up learning to encapsulate the salt so she could take the pill to get all of her salt in. And that was the first thing that we did that helped her heart rate. It would get down, but her heart rate was still high. It was hardly ever below 100. And it was like in the 130s when she would wake up in the morning. That's not normal. My heart rate resting is like 50. My husband always laughs and he's like, I don't even know how you're alive, because sometimes my heart rate would be like 45. I just have low. I'm chill. One of my friends said, that's why you're so chill. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't feel chill all the time, but I do have that. So anyway, her heart rate was high. So then she's taking 10 salt pills, ginormous salt pills a day. She's taking all of that asthma medicine. At some point in here, I take her back to the pediatrician because we're sick again. All the children are sick. One of my daughters has extremely low iron, so exhausted all the time, and my children are playing all of these sports all through this. I had a pregnancy through this. I could not maintain through that pregnancy vitamins. Like, my body just wouldn't keep them up. I was taking so many vitamins every day. I remember telling my midwife, I was like, I'm kind of worried about my baby. Like, I'm having to take so much magnesium every day just so my legs don't cramp so that I can sleep through the night. That's got to be dangerous for the baby. And she's like, no, it's fine. Like, if your legs are still cramping, you need it. And at some point I realized I needed to take B vitamins so my body would absorb magnesium, and that really helped, but I had to consistently take tons of B vitamins. So anyway, I asked the pediatrician, I said, what's wrong with us? Like, in the last year, we've had the flu, we've had COVID, we've had strep throat twice, we've had, I don't even know how many viruses, stomach viruses, norovirus, rhinovirus, like we had it all. We just kept getting sick. We couldn't catch a break. Now we know that it was the mold. This is how we found out about the mold, and it was such a God thing. I won't keep boring you with all the sickness issues because I could go on and on. Once my pediatrician told me that, I had talked to him because we were always sick. She was taking all this asthma medicine, but it wasn't helping. If she truly had like an asthma attack, I would have to take her to urgent care, or I would give her like a nebulized albuterol. A lot of my crunchy mom friends, like we had nebulized so many things to try to help her breathe. She was taking a handful of pills every day at this point, and the pediatrician, and I said, okay, nothing is helping. What do I do? Like, what else can we do? And I think my poor pediatrician didn't know what to do either, but he said, you just need to keep taking this medicine. And I was like, but it's not working. And he was like, well, you need to just keep doing it and it'll start working. And this had been years at this point. And I was like, okay. Like, I realized at this moment, like, this is not an episode of House or whatever medical episode that you watch. This is real life, and nobody knows what's wrong with my daughter. I realized at that moment no one knew what was wrong with her. And so me and my husband, we prayed. We were like, Lord, please show us what is wrong with our daughter. Please help us to know what to do for her. We were spending thousands of dollars a month on medical bills, medicine, supplement. We had switched all of our food to as healthy as we could afford. Nothing was helping. So the prayer was prayed. We were praying, and then randomly one of my favorite podcasts, Alex Clark, I listened to an episode with Mommy, I think is her name, and she was talking about how she lost her home to toxic mold. And I was like, that's a weird episode. I'm going to listen to it because I love Alex Clark and I love almost everything that her podcast has. There's a few I don't really care for, but most of her stuff I really do enjoy. Anyway, that podcast, I listened to it and I thought, she talked about her daughter getting food sensitivities, and that really caught my eye because Summer had so many food sensitivities. I had food sensitivities, and I was like, that is so weird. I'm going to ask our doctor about this because at this point I had taken Summer to a functional medicine doctor. She had done all the blood work on Summer. She had said it's like her entire body has inflammation. Her whole body is inflamed, but I don't know why. The last year before we found out the mold, her white blood count was high. Like, her body was fighting an infection, but they didn't know why. And we had tried antibiotics. That didn't help. And it didn't knock her white blood cell count down enough. It went from a 16 to a 12. We couldn't get the inflammation in her body down. Her arms and her body just tingled and hurt all the time, like nerve pain all over. Her electrolytes were imbalanced like horribly, even though she was taking at this point 10.5 teaspoons or 2.5 teaspoons of salt, some days 3 teaspoons of salt, just to keep her heart rate in control. The cardiologist had told us we might have to knock it all the way up to 10. He's like, I have some patients who take 10 teaspoons of salt a day. That's a lot of salt. We knew we might have to up the salt. But anyway, at this point, we were going in for a follow-up. Oh, and we had whooping cough last year, and that lasted for 3 months. It took him like another month after we got out of the mold to stop coughing. So we might have been better after 3 months, but the cough was still going. So I can say that nobody has a whooping cough anymore, but that was horrible. I asked the doctor, hey, what do you think about Summer having like a mold exposure? And she was like, well, I really don't think that's what it is, because when somebody has a mold exposure, we deal with a whole family, not just one. And I said, well, let me tell you about my whole family, because my daughter was the only one I was taking to her at the time because she was so symptomatic. And so I just started telling her about the different things that all of my children were going through. My son, my older daughter, my younger kids, how sick we had been. And she said, well, we can test her if you want. I don't think that's it, but we can test her if you want to, because it's an expensive test. It's not covered by insurance, or at least it wasn't at her office. And I said, yeah, I think I want to test her. And that podcast and that prayer led to the result that Summer had mycotoxin toxicity from some toxic mold. It was not Stachybostrys, not like the black mold that most people get, like from, I don't know, their water leaking behind the walls and stuff like that. It was like high quantities of toxic, like outdoor mold. I'll do another video on the specifics of it if you guys are interested in that. If not, I won't. But anyway, next time we came back in, she said, "You're not going to believe this, but Summer has mycotoxin toxicity. You were right. I really didn't think you were, but you were. You were right. I'm so glad you listened to your instinct." And she pretty much told me Summer's a pediatric and she's not comfortable treating pediatrics, so she referred me to a doctor in Atlanta and who specializes in like pediatric mold exposure. So we've been seeing her. She's helping me with all the kids. I have some of my older kids' appointments with other doctors to get them like specialized care. Let me just say this: 5 days after we moved out of our home, Summer's heart rate was in the 60s and her oxygen was 100% for the first time in 14 months. For the first time in 14 months, after only 5 days of being out of that house. And I just felt like the Lord answered our prayer by showing us what was wrong with Summer. And then he gave us that confirmation showing us that we were doing the right thing, because it was scary. It was hard. I didn't know what we were going to do. I didn't know where we were going to go. It's not like I have one kid and we can just, I don't know, live in our van or something. Like, I have 9 kids, like 8 still live at home at this time. And it was hard. I was scared. And that reading on Summer's pulse ox that day, I was like, okay, God, thank you. Thank you so much. So where are we now? We've had to throw away like 95% of our belongings, tear out the air ducts in our attic, tear out everything in our attic, tear out all the flooring in our home. So basically our home is still under construction. It's still under mediation cleaning. Everything is still getting done to it. We are in the process of trying to rebuild our lives. Our church has helped us tremendously. This beautiful Airbnb that we're staying in is about 15 minutes from our house. So we still have our chickens. We can still go home and take care of our chickens. Our neighbor, Kimmy, you're the best. Thank you so much. She's helping us keep our chickens healthy and alive during this. And Abbott, thank you so much. But anyway, we are hoping that we can move back into our house in a month or so, if that's the Lord's will for us to move back there. If not, then we'll figure something else out. But yeah. So that's what we've been up to for the past 6 weeks, and that's why you haven't seen a video. That is what is going on in my life. So we're doing well, we're doing good. God is so good. He has been with us through this whole thing, and I know that he's got a plan from this. I know that I'm learning so many things through this. My children are, and it's been amazing. If you have any questions, stick them down below. I will answer them, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope that if you're new here, that you will stick around, because normally the content that I put out is like grocery hauls, mom content, encouragement, love, natural living stuff, and I'm not really sure what my content's going to be from here on out. It's still going to be a lot of the same, but maybe some new stuff too. I love you guys, and I'll see you guys in the next video. God bless.